Hello, and welcome to my retirement roadmap. This is the first video in a series on portfolios. Okay, so basically, I need to lay a foundation, and this is going to be a bit of repetition from the introduction videos on my retirement roadmap. But I think it's important to talk about this again prior to get into the actual way of investing. First of all, the tagline for my retirement roadmap is navigating retirement with a simple, efficient plan. I will confess that I used AI to help me out with that. I kind of said, here's kind of what I'm trying to say. And AI came back with several options. And this is the one I really like: navigating retirement with a simple, efficient plan. I think it's a bit of a stretch to use simple and retirement in the same sentence because there isn't a whole lot about retirement that's simple. This is what I'm learning, okay? Firsthand experience. But I guess we can say is we're trying to make this as simple as possible. And this roadmap really also does target as well being low cost. And when we're talking about low cost, I'm talking about when it comes to investments. So we're talking about fees for investing, expense ratios, also for advisory fees. If a person is using an investment advisor, financial advisor, the expenses there to keep those low cost and fair. So we'll talk about that. Low complexity is another thing. Keep things as simple as possible. I say, well, what's the difference between simple and low complexity? I think it's kind of interesting because there are investments out there that are very complex that can actually make retirement simpler. So we'll kind of differentiate the two and say that low complexity is different than being simple. Additionally, low maintenance. And when I'm talking about low maintenance, the idea is once everything's kind of lined up and put in place, really the hope is that you only need to revisit your portfolio once a year, unless there's a life-changing event such as a birth or a death or a divorce or something like that. Okay, so try to make this low maintenance as well. I use the word empowering because this is for households who really, they're kind of like do-it-yourselfers, but they're also like, I need to understand, I need to be educated to know about my retirement plan. So that's why I want to say empowering. So we're not like turning control over to someone else. That's part of this roadmap that I've created. I also like to talk about these words that start with C, because when we're talking about this retirement roadmap, there's a lot of personality involved. And I'll talk just a bit about Wade Pfau for a minute, because Wade Pfau, he's an academic, I think he's one of the brightest out there in retirement financial planning. I really do. And I follow him. I use his books in talking and researching retirement. And he's come up with, and I believe one of his partners, they've come up with what's called the Retirement Income Style Assessment, RISA. Hopefully I got that right. But it's kind of interesting because it talks about different styles of people and how they invest and particular how they withdraw money in retirement. Okay. And at the end of the day, to me, that really looks like a personality. So there's different personalities in how these come together. And so when I'm talking about this retirement roadmap that I've created, it does appeal to people who have similar personalities and risk tolerances that I do. Okay, so that's it. I think that's important to understand. And the reason why I say that is because I'm telling you that when it comes to control, I'm the type of person, I don't want to control other people. That's not at all where I'm going, but I like to be in control. I don't like turning things over to other people and kind of just letting loose. I like to be in control of my environment and my situation. I also like certainty. So and the stock market does as well. You know, we want to be certain about things. And so that's also important when it comes to this. Consistency is another thing. I like things to be consistent. I know when they're going to happen, and they're going to happen at a certain frequency. That's also important. Then there's one other C word that we'll talk about, clutter. And I'm saying low clutter. I do not like clutter. And all of these characteristics are playing into this roadmap and are particularly relevant when we get into investments. And I'll kind of refer back to some of this information as we go along. This roadmap that I've created is also, it is meant to be an off-the-shelf product. And I like to use the analogy of when you go to Costco, sometimes there's only one choice. And I kind of like remember years and years ago, and at Costco, you wanted paper towels, you had one choice: take it or leave it. So this really is like an off-the-shelf roadmap, and it is meant to be customized as needed. So instead of building from the ground up, which is really the right way, the correct way, the academic way of creating a financial plan, is that you start at the bottom and you can find out what your requirements are. I'll give another analogy. It's kind of like when you buy a house. You could say, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to meet with an architect. We're going to find out how many bedrooms, is it all going to be a single level, et cetera, et cetera. So you can go through all that. And at the end of all that, when your house is built, you're going to probably have exactly what you want and need, and it fits perfectly. But it's probably going to be a lot more money. And just going and buying a new house that's been built and maybe changing the carpet, upgrading it or something like that, that's the difference. Okay, so we are really talking about off-the-shelf product here in my retirement roadmap. And the other thing, I want to use one other analogy or explain something that's similar. Pretty much my entire career was in information technology, and the last 25 years of my career was spent at AT&T in the IT, I guess they call it now, technology development department. Okay, and so the company had a very highly skilled, educated, experienced IT staff could program, could create programs themselves. So that's like if we were coming up with a new functionality that we need to provide for the business, it's like, what do you do here? Do you create it from scratch, or do you go buy it from another vendor? And that's we call it commercial off the shelf, right? So this is kind of separate. In this case, we're saying, hey, we're gonna take something off the shelf that's already been created, it's been tested, it's been proven to work, and then we'll just customize it and make it what we need for our situation. So that's really what I wanted to give as far as the background on what's going on, the foundation for this roadmap, and also as it pertains to investments. A couple other things I would point out in this introduction. These investments, what we're talking about here, really are for people who are already in retirement or they are near retirement. This information is really not going to work for people who are saving for retirement. Different. This is very different, and should be when you are researching retirement. You really have to understand that saving for retirement and spending in retirement are two very different skill sets. It's kind of like you hear the analogy of when you're climbing the mountain, it's one skill set, and when you're coming back down the mountain, it's different. So very different ways of doing things. Okay, and then the other thing I also say as part of this introduction is we want to keep our beneficiaries in mind. I think that's important, especially for households. In most households, let's say married filing jointly, two spouses, one person is kind of the one who pays attention to this, has interested in this part. The other one is like, I really don't want anything to do with it. Well, as you might guess, in my household, I'm the one who really likes this, and I get into it. And my partner, Jeff, wants like nothing to do with it. Just nothing. Doesn't even want to talk about it. Says, I've got a good financial planner, and that's all I need to know. So I guess where I'm saying here, if we're really keeping simplicity in mind, we are planning for our beneficiaries. Okay, should we pass before our spouse? We're also planning for ourselves as we age, because as we get older, we're not quite as sharp with things. And also if something happens, so both of us are gone and our successor beneficiaries, it'd be nice to have things all tidied up and simple so they don't inherit a mess to deal with. Okay, so I think that's probably good enough for the introduction now, and we'll meet you on the next video.